If you remember the last time I told you I was working at Virginia Electronics Company, and I had an opportunity to witness there and etc. And there were some other things that happened, and there was one gal there by the name of Denise, and she was very worldly. She wore really sexy outfits. She was always flirting with the guys. And one day she said to me, she said, "Bob, I used to be like you. I was a Baptist." And she said, "But then I got married and my husband taught me another lifestyle. And I couldn't go into a church anymore. I'd be afraid to go into a church." And I said, "Oh, Diane, the church is a place for sinners to find forgiveness. You don't have to be afraid." And she said, "Well, I wouldn't be comfortable," and walked away. Sometime later, she came by my desk and she said, "Bob, doesn't the Bible say women are supposed to obey their husband?" And I go, "Yes, it does." And she said, "Well, my husband tells me to go home with other men. So how can I do that? How can that work?" And she walked away. I'm going, okay, kind of having this conversation with herself, huh? And then another time, she came by, and she said, well, actually, it's as I was leaving, she came by. She came to me and she handed me a piece of paper that had her name and her address on it. And she said, "By the way, Bob, I'm getting divorced. I'm leaving my husband. Please pray for me. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I need to do. I don't know how or what I should do. So, just pray for me." I said, "I will." So I took her address and I started praying for Diane from that day on. And my return to Prairie Bible Institute, now that wasn't a simple matter. I had to drive from Washington, D.C. to Bremerton, Washington. I got to Bremerton, Washington, and of course I took all my summer clothes, put them in the closet, took all my winter clothes, because Prairie Bible Institute is cold weather. It's up in Three Hills, Alberta, Canada. Temperatures drop below sub-zero. So you have to have a very warm coat and very warm clothes. And so I did. I packed up my clothes for Prairie Bible Institute, put them in my car, and I headed off to Prairie Bible Institute. Now, Adie Hinkle had graduated the year before, so she wasn't going to need a ride. She's off doing whatever she's doing. But when I got to Prairie Bible Institute, if I wanted to let Karen know what I need prayer for, I would have to tell her myself. But I didn't think she was praying for me, so no big deal. So anyway, I got assigned to a room with 4 guys in it. Now, in the corner of JK dorm, right next where the JK dorm is in an H shape, and right where the middle hall going across between the 2 dorms, it's almost like 2 dorms joined by another building in between. The in-between part had the bathrooms, the recreation room, the laundry room, all that kind of stuff. And then the dorms were just rooms for the guys to stay in. And we were up on 4th floor and had a room that was twice the size of most of the rest of the rooms. So instead of having 2 guys in it, they put 4 guys in it. So Dan Jewett was a freshman, and him and I shared the same bunk bed. I had the top and he had the bottom. And then Don Turkington, who was a junior, and Doug Vaughn, who was a sophomore, they shared the other bunk bed. And we just shared the room. It was really kind of crowded. We only had 2 desks. I think it was 3 desks. We had 3 desks. So somebody had to study on their bed if we were all in the room. But most of the time we weren't all in the room. Somebody would go to the library or something or somewhere and study. So most of the time we got along real well. We got along very good, matter of fact. That was the best set of roommates I had in my whole 4 years, I think. Well, maybe Dave. Dave was better. But it was really good. Did well. So anyway, then one day I got mail in the campus mail. And it didn't have, it had just my address, my name, and nothing else on the envelope. Inside the envelope was 2 tracts. One was for a rededication tract. It was about coming back to God after you had wandered away. And the other one was the other tract was a salvation tract. So I thought, why? Why did I get these? And then I realized, wait a minute, I got 2 people. So I put the tract for salvation in an envelope, and along with it I put a little letter. I wrote out a little hand letter that said, I got this tract in the mail and I thought of you and I'm praying for you, so I thought I'd pass it on to you. And I sent it to the guy that was lost in Washington, D.C., the guy that couldn't find his way and I had shared the gospel with. And then the other letter, the one about rededicating their life, I put that in another envelope, on a different envelope, put a stamp on it, and I addressed it to Diane, and I just put a little note in there and said, Dear Diane, I'm praying for you. I got this tract in the mail. I couldn't help but think of you, so I thought I'd forward it on. Please let me know how things are going. And I sent it off. About 2 weeks later, I got a mail back from Diane, and she said, Bob, that was so amazing. That was just so amazing. She said, I went on vacation. I told you I was filing for divorce when you left, but I went on vacation. I knew I needed to get my life straightened out. I need to get right with God, but I had no clue how. I just didn't know where to start. And she said, and then I went on vacation, and I figured when I got back I needed to straighten out my life. And I came back, and in the mail was that tract from you. And it was like it was written just for me. She said it was exactly what I needed. She said, I bowed my head, I read the tract, and then I bowed my head right then and there, and I asked Jesus to forgive me and to help me put my life back together on the right track. And she said, you won't believe it. The very next day after that, the Baptist preacher from the local Baptist church knocked on my door asking if there was anything he could do for me. And I'm going to that church this next Sunday. Thank you so much for praying. Diane. So that was really, really fun. That was great. I told you that on Friday nights, any senior can talk to any other senior. So on Friday night, I stayed after, and so did Karen. We got together, we started talking, and I found out that she was praying for me. And that Adie Hinkle had been passing on my prayer request to her, but she hadn't been passing on Karen's prayer request to me. None of the course, Karen had written letters to me all summer long about the same rate as Adie Hinkle had, but she would give the letters to Adie Hinkle to mail, and I never got them. I just never got them. So I didn't know what the deal was, but now Karen and I knew she was praying for me one time. Now, still you're not supposed to be talking at Prairie, at that point, except during Friday night, chaperone. But I got a letter from my mom requesting prayer, so I was walking past Karen on the sidewalk going into Tabernacle, and I just handed her the letter. And she took it. She later pointed out to me, told me that the Dean of Women, Mrs. Seifert, was walking right behind us. She was so scared we were going to get in trouble for it. I didn't think we would, because there was nothing in the letter about me. It was all about my mother. It's written by my mother. So I didn't think we'd get in trouble for it anyway. But she was afraid of it, so she said I shouldn't do that. But on Friday nights we could exchange information, we could exchange prayer requests. And most Friday nights we were out of time before we were out of things to talk about. And so we spent a lot of Friday nights together on a quite regular basis. As I was going through, this is by this time it's mid-December, January, and it's really cold outside. Matter of fact, 40 degrees below zero at the time. And I told God, I said, I've got a 10 o'clock class, and I've got a 9 o'clock class, and I've got an 11 o'clock class. And so there's an hour between those two classes. And if I walk all the way across campus back to JK dorm, I'll have about 15 minutes in my nice warm dorm room, and then I go back in the cold and walk all the way back across campus. So I told God, I said, Lord, if you help me find a place that I can pray, a room that I can pray in, then I will spend the whole hour in prayer. And very quickly after that, I found out that in the tabernacle, there's just tons of rooms. There's lots of rooms in the tabernacle that are kept open all week long, all day long, and into the night, because they are there for practice rooms. That way, music students aren't practicing their instruments in the dorm. They're supposed to do it in the tabernacle. So I just went in the tabernacle and found a room that wasn't taken, and went into it and spent the hour in prayer. And the first time I went in, I spent my hour in prayer, and I got done, and I went to go to class, and I realized that it had only been 10 minutes. So, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to stay in the room. I'm going to pray. I'm going to stay in the room and pray. And if I'm out of things to do, I'm going to learn how to pray. And that's how I learned to pray. I learned how to pray while I was there in that room, spending time. By the end of the semester, one time I went into the room and I prayed for an hour, then I went to class, but all the kids were coming out of the class. It turned out I had prayed for 2 hours, and it felt like 1 hour. So I had to be careful. I had to watch my time, not to see when my hour was going to be up, but to make sure that I didn't go over. So that was a big learning experience. The other big learning experience I had was the rest paper. Now, in L.E. Maxwell's Hebrews class, which is required from all seniors, in his class, he has what they call a rest paper. It's like half your grade. And so everybody's all concerned about it when he assigns it. And he assigned it, it's basically you write an essay answering a bunch of questions about Hebrews chapter 4 and the concept of rest in Hebrews, in the book of Hebrews. Now, the students, L.E. Maxwell wrote a book on the topic, so the students asked, they raised their hands and they said, hey, can we use the book that you wrote on the topic? And his first answer was no. And then he thought for a minute, he said, some of you probably already read the book. So he asked, how many here have read the book? And I'd say about 2/3 of the hands went up. So he said, it probably wouldn't be fair to the rest of you that haven't read it to say no. So I guess I'm going to have to say yes. And he said yes. And then another student asked, well, can we use notes from the sermon that you gave 3 years ago on the topic? And L.E. Maxwell again said, I want to say no. But he said, probably a bunch of you have heard that sermon already, and so it wouldn't be fair to the rest of you. He said, I guess, you might as well. He said, you'll do just about anything to keep from going to the Bible. Now here's all these Bible school students trying to avoid studying the Bible. I was just cut to the heart. I was just, it's like, oh Lord, I can't believe. I mean, I had read the book. I was at that sermon, and I had a tape of all the classes. So I had everything to write that paper without going to the Bible. And I decided, Lord, I'm just going to get rid of all that stuff, and I'm going to just write the book, write the essay, the rest paper they call it, and write the rest paper just using the Word of God. And if I fail it, I fail it, and if I don't, I don't. Whatever grade I get. But the purpose of being here is not to get A's. The purpose of being here is to learn the Word of God. So I wrote the paper. Now I was a week late, so I had 4 points taken off for lateness. So I only got, let's see, that'd be 94 points, I think it was. I got a 94 It's 94 points out of 100, so that's 94%. So that was a good grade. But I was just blessed by having done it straight from the Word of God. I just stopped worrying about grades, and I started, every assignment from that day on was a devotional. It's like a devotional. I didn't worry about the grade. I just did the assignment to get the experience, to get to know God better, to learn the Word of God better. I didn't worry about grades anymore because I got such a good grade on that paper, I didn't even try it. Getting toward the end of the year, we had a missions assignment for our missions class that we were supposed to interview some missionaries. And I had this one missionary that was from Argentina, and he was doing a serviceman center for Argentine servicemen. Now he's doing this serviceman center for Argentine servicemen, and they're just like, like the serviceman center work that I was doing at Bremerton. And so I went and interviewed him, and when I hung up the phone from having made the interview, scheduling the interview, it was like somebody was standing behind me. I heard a voice that said, "This is not the way, do not walk in it." And I thought, what? Who? Huh? Nobody was there. And then I was kind of puzzled. And I got to the interview, and the guy laid out the ministry, and it was so exciting. I wanted to do it the worst way. I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect for me. And I just had this gnawing suspicion that that was God that told me, this is not the way, don't walk in it. So I didn't follow through with that opportunity. Much later, I'm walking across the grounds, and a stranger, senior, I barely knew her. I mean, I could recognize her, but I didn't know her name. This woman stepped in front of me and said, "My name is Betty Sturdivant. I want to tell you about a servicemen's ministry opportunity in Newport, Rhode Island. The guy who is currently the dorm person for that servicemen's center is going to be getting married and needs to be replaced. So here's the address," and just handed me the address and left. She was just out of there. I mean, she was in there. She told me, she stopped in front of me, told me about the ministry, and handed me the paper, and was turned on her heels and walked briskly away. And I'm going, why do I care about servicemen's ministry in Newport, Rhode Island? I said, God, I don't want to stay in the States. The people in the United States, they've had their chance. They can hear the gospel anytime, anywhere. I didn't want to stay in the States. I wanted to go somewhere where they hadn't heard the gospel, where the gospel was not easily, not being preached on every corner, not where there was a church or 2 or 3 churches in every city. I mean, I wanted to go someplace where I wanted to go to a less reached or unreached people group. That's what I wanted to do. And I had given up on the United States, and God just started convicting my heart. You can't give up on the United States. You don't get to choose when I'm done with the United States. You can't choose. That's not a decision for you to make. So I had to deal with that. And finally I gave in, and I sent a letter off to the address that Betty Sturdivant had given me, requesting information on the position that they had open. And they sent back fairly thick application. They wanted my doctrine statement. They wanted me to give them my doctrine, my history, everything. And my testimony, just kind of everything. And so I filled that thing out. All the detail, I just answered all the questions honestly, as best I could. They wanted 3 or 4 references, and I gave them 3 or 4 references, one of which was the pastor of my church, my home church. And then the guy that I worked with setting up the services ministry of that church, and a couple of other people and that I had worked with. And so I sent in the application, and then I just forgot about it. Oh, whatever. Probably won't choose me. So I left it at that. So the Argentine thing, of course, never happened. I found out, by the way, later that Karen also had interviewed with the same guy. And it's interesting, he gave both of us the same answer. They wanted a couple. And when he interviewed Karen, she said, "I'm sorry, I'm not a couple. I don't even have a prospect of being a couple." And he said, "Oh, no problem. We just mean the equivalent of couple. So you could come as a single person, and then we just get another single person." And when I went in and interviewed with him, he also there said, "We're looking for a couple." And I said, oh, okay, well, in that case, I'm not interested. I don't qualify. I'm not a couple." And he said, "Well, that's not a problem. We just need the equivalent of a couple. So you can be meet half of the requirement or the need." And I went, oh, okay. So I left. But Karen and I have often wondered, which one of us did he talk to first? And was he thinking that we would be the couple? That was interesting. It was thought-provoking. We came into graduation, time for graduation. My mother came up to graduation. I've told you before that Prairie Bible Institute, the last thing they do in the school year is have the seniors graduate. I guess I should tell you that Prairie Bible Institute had decided that I could not beneficially contribute to any musical group because I just can't carry a tune, nor can I keep a beat. And so between the two, they figured that, as a matter of fact, they just flat out told me, "Bob, just mouth the words. Don't actually let any sound come out of your mouth. Just say it quietly so that people think you are talking, even though you're not." So that's what I did during the graduation service. It's interesting because every time a song leader or a choir director at a church decides, "Oh, Bob and Karen, oh, they would be great in our choir," they come to me and they say, "Wouldn't you be great? Won't you join the choir?" I said, "You don't want me in your choir." And they go, "Why not?" And I said, and I tell them about Prairie Bible Institute. Most of them get the hint. And they go, "Oh, okay." And they stop pushing. They stop trying to get me to join the choir because they know that that's not going to be a good thing. Okay, so we come up to graduation, and Karen gave me a yellow tie. And my mom came up to graduation to see me graduate. And when my mom found out that Karen had given me a yellow tie, she said, "You should wear it." I said, "No, I don't have a suit that it goes well with." And so I didn't wear it. And then when I got to the banquet, it turned out that Karen and I were sitting next to each other, and my mom's sitting on the other side of the table. And sure enough, Karen's wearing a yellow dress. And Mom's going, "You should have worn the yellow tie." But I'm going, "No, people would think we were going together, and we're not. We're just prayer partners." Matter of fact, one time when I came back from Friday night, my roommate, Doug, asked me if I had a good time with my girlfriend. I said, "She's not my girlfriend, she's my prayer partner." And he said, "So is there a possibility?" I said, "I don't think so." And he goes, "Well, does she know that it's just prayer partners?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, does she want it that way?" I said, "I don't know." And the thought at that moment that Karen might be praying for us to be more than just prayer partners was just more than I could think about. I always considered Karen way out of my league. From the first time I met, I figured I was not her type. So I'd always thought she was way out of my league. So I was pretty sure she wouldn't want to be more than prayer partners. I dismissed it. There was that moment when I was thinking, could that be? And then while we were talking at the banquet, the subject of going to Newport, Rhode Island, I had been accepted to work in the Servicemen Center. And the subject of going to Newport, Rhode Island came up. And Karen said she was going as well because she was going to be in the wedding. I said, oh, well, I can give you a ride if you want. She goes, oh, that would be nice. So I scheduled to stop at Mayville, Michigan, and pick her up and take her to Newport, Rhode Island. And my mother, who is from the area of New York, said that we should go to see the falls, Niagara Falls. And I said, oh, okay. So Karen and I stopped at Niagara Falls to see the falls because my mom was so insistent that I should see them. And it was interesting because her family kept grilling me when I was there on why are you stopping at Niagara Falls? I said, because my mom told me I should see them. That's why. They're going, is that all? And it wasn't till sometime later that I found out that Niagara Falls was also a great spot that a lot of people eloped to. So they had their suspicions, but I thought they were unfounded. So we went to Newport, Rhode Island. Oh, when I got in the car to go there, we got in the car and I handed Karen the map. I said, okay, I'm driving, so you're navigator. I handed her the map. And she said, navigator? I don't know how to read a map. I can't be navigator. I don't know how to read a map. I said, it's okay, I'll teach you. And so as we went down the road, I would help her find north and south and east and west and know which way to turn. And she would tell me which road to turn on, and then I'd turn on it and turn the right direction. And so I helped her learn how to navigate, which has made a big difference in our lives. And when we got to Newport, Rhode Island, found out some really interesting stuff. I'll tell you about it next time.